Tonight, reaction to 29 recommendations laid out at the end of the inquest into the massacre at Smith Cree Nation and Weldon. Also, rotating strikes today in parts of the province as teachers try to force the government back to the bargaining table. Plus, a drought summer, followed by a dry winter and a seemingly early spring. What this could mean for the next wildfire season.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, February 1st, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. After 11 days of inquest testimony examining the deaths at Smith Cree Nation and Weldon, the provincial coroner and a 6-person jury have delivered 29 recommendations, all of them aimed at preventing a similar event in the future. As Pratush Dayal reports, while some families are hopeful, others are not fully satisfied with the findings.
The 29 recommendations are calling for systemic change in many areas, including within Correctional Services Canada, the RCMP, and the Smith Cree Nation community. Among them, that the RCMP has the most current photo of anyone they're looking for, and that the First Nation keeps pushing for its own local police force. The recommendations also said Correctional Services Canada needs to fill important vacancies of psychologists, psychiatrists, and hire more elders, and to ensure offenders get continuous care and resources once they leave custody. It also says the RCMP should share more information about wanted persons with First Nations leaders and meet with the First Nation 4 times a year to address ongoing drug and gang issues.
We've been working hard on some of those same themes, increasing communication with the First Nation.
The recommendations are bringing new hope to family members.
There's good recommendations there, positive. Like I said, just help me sleep at night, since there's still a couple more recommendations I would like to see, but I'm happy, at least they got honored.
So if my sister's death means that something positive is going to come out of this, then her legacy is going to live on.
Still, some family members say the recommendations ignored the impact of residential schools.
One of the recommendations went onto the residential school and the impact. And for me, that was really noticeable.
We haven't begun to see the shift in the generations that have pursued the education and the experience to be in those roles. And when that time comes, our communities will look a little differently.
But some First Nation leadership say they're dissatisfied with the recommendations and that money will be a challenge.
Current funding model is outdated and insufficient to address communities' continuing public safety needs.
A lot of work ahead of us, and I really, really want to look at how we can move forward, especially with self-administered policing, addictions, awareness, all the areas of that were traumatized our people.
Also the funding for making safety communities that say to the both levels of government. These recommendations, we like to call them call to action, not just recommendations.
All the organizations that received recommendations will now have the chance to respond and figure out how to implement them. The First Nation says it wants to have meetings with each agency to ensure that those recommendations are actually put into place. Pratush Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan teachers were back on picket lines in some parts of the province today. This latest job action took the form of a rotating strike across several school divisions. Tyreek Reed has more from Moose Jaw.
It was a familiar sight in Moose Jaw Thursday morning, where about 500 teachers from the Prairie South School Division were outside picketing, hoping to bring the government back to the bargaining table and reach a deal.
Funding has gone down in the classroom, and these school divisions need more money in order to be able to put resources where they're needed in the classroom.
More teachers walked the line in Prince Albert, 5 local school divisions in the province are taking part in this rotating strike, marking the 3rd time teachers have resorted to job action this year. The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says its top issues remain the same. It wants to add class size and complexity to the collective agreement. Teachers say that would help them do their jobs in the classroom.
It makes the day much more complex for us when we're trying to deliver a curriculum and meet the, social, personal, emotional needs of our students. We are trained as teachers, we're not trained as psychologists, we're not trained as counselors, but we do our best.
The STF is also demanding a 2% salary increase plus consumer price index over 4 years. But the government says that demand amounts to a pay increase of about 23% and will impact taxpayers deeply. Still, teachers say further investment in education is needed, and quickly.
Classrooms are different. They're not what they were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. There's more kids with needs.
Teachers have taken on more and more responsibilities, and we try and shoulder it all because that's what we do. We try and do the best for our students, and we're kind of at a breaking point where there's nothing left to give.
At this point, the STF has not announced any further job action, and both the government and the Federation say they're hoping to get back to the bargaining table soon to reach a deal. Tariq Reed, CBC News, Moose Jaw.
The Regina Food Bank is opening a community food hub this summer. It will allow people to pick what they want, similar to a small grocery store. Regina will be the first city in Canada to use the model. The food bank's CEO says it will both break stigma and help people access foods they love.
The ability to say, yes, I want this versus that is really important. Also the ability to say, no, I won't be able to use that. And that comes down to dietary choice, that comes down to religious requirements, that comes down to, in some cases, just preference. Maybe your kid doesn't eat fish. Well, we don't want to give you fish that you're not going to be able to use. So just making sure that we have that piece, because we do believe it greater social outcomes for the folks we serve.
Bailey says this will also help reduce overall food waste. It will tell them what kinds of food people like and will focus them on purchasing more. The Winnipeg Street location will continue running alongside the new project. Regina City Council is balking at the idea of backyard chickens. Ward 8 Councillor Shannon Zakidniak had proposed the creation of a 2-year pilot program. That motion was then modified to ask for a report on the cost and any possible form of a pilot that would allow hens in backyards. But Council voted against it, which means the bylaw against livestock in city limits continues.
I can understand why many folks in Regina are frustrated with council and are frustrated with democracy when they feel that their elected officials don't listen to them. I think that's what it says to them. Your elected officials aren't listening. And I think that's really unfortunate.
Mayor Sandra Masters was among those who voted against the proposal. She says there are bigger issues to deal with in the city, such as housing and snow removal. As for the chickens that may already be living in people's backyards, Masters says bylaws are complaint-based, so if there's no complaints, the bylaws are not likely being enforced. With the turn of the calendar to February, it is Black History Month. In Saskatoon, the University of Saskatchewan is celebrating with a series of events and a theme: Black experiences, arts, and literature. The launch today started with speeches from the president of the university, faculty, and the president of the Pan-African Students Association. Esther Ogum says the month is both mournful and powerful. She spoke of 19-year-old international student Afolabi Opaso, who was killed in Winnipeg by Winnipeg police last month, and Hodan Hoshi, who died at a nightclub in Saskatoon last year. Hoshi's family is still calling for justice.
It's important to never forget. It's important to never forget our history. I sometimes feel like sometimes we get so caught up in having the events and all the flamboyance, but it's important to remember the struggles, and not just the ones in the past, but the ones that are actively happening right now.
Ogum wants to see more than performative action on social media. She'd like allies to be actively doing something to improve the lives of Black people around them. We're just days away from the start of the CFL's negotiation window. It's the final leg before free agency opens February 13th. The general manager of the Saskatchewan Roughriders says despite the team's performance the last 2 seasons, he doesn't feel the need to make a splash during the period.
We're going to spend as much as we can on the cap, just like we do every year. So every team is going to spend to the cap. So it's not like you're sitting there saying we're going to spend more or we're going to hold back or anything like that. We're still going to attack it like we do every year and spend to the cap. And so hopefully those decisions that we make are good. And just like any other year, we'll have a priority of guys that we want to talk to once the window opens and attack them in a certain way. But as far as us, we'll talk to the players that we want to become Rough Riders, and hopefully the feeling's mutual.
O'Day met with the media remotely today from Texas, where he's on a scouting trip. The CFL negotiation window is open from February 4th to 11th. It allows pending free agents to chat with other teams about potential contracts. It was created in 2020 as a way to curb tampering from club to club. Well, this probably does not come as a surprise given the warm and melty weather. The Provincial Capital Commission is closing the rink on Wascana for the rest of the season. Work to remove the boards started today, and the warming facility also closed. That said, the PCC says this will not affect the Wascana Centre hub for Frost Regina. There are still other activities in the park, including laser tag, horses, and wagon rides. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. The Prince Albert Grand Council is sounding the alarm about the upcoming wildfire season. Yes, on February 1st. It's urging communities in our province to take preventative measures as we continue to experience especially dry winter conditions. Laura Sharpoletti has more.
There are drought conditions across the prairies, and Saskatchewan is no exception. After a particularly rough 2023 wildfire season, the Prince Albert Grand Council will begin fire mitigation efforts as soon as possible this year. In a statement, Grand Chief Brian Hardlott called for increased vigilance and proactive strategies to protect First Nations, saying the prospect of a warmer wildfire season coupled with diminished snowfall underscores the necessity for preventative action to ensure the well-being of our communities. The protection of our territories and our people is paramount, and we cannot afford to be reactive. The Director of Forestry for PA Grand Council says it's prepared to take action earlier than usual this year.
The intent is to limit the amount of evacuations that we have. If we have people that are willing and able and capable and qualified in those communities, why would we not utilize that resource to protect the community? The equipment is always going to be an issue that we have, and we have the support of Indigenous Services Canada in that respect.
Next door, Alberta has hinted it could declare an emergency under its Water Act due to severe drought. A Saskatoon water security expert tells CBC that while the majority of Saskatchewan has drought conditions, it's not as severe as Alberta.
Saskatchewan has Lake Diefenbaker, which is a much larger reservoir than anything Alberta has. And so Lake Diefenbaker can manage through more than 1 year drought. Of course, how long it depends on the severity of that drought.
In the meantime, the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says it has teamed up with the PA Grand Council to foster community-driven wildfire management. Laura Sharpoletti, CBC News, Regina.
This weather update is brought to you by Titan Automotive, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now, and I don't think this is an overshare, but I guarantee tonight will be the fourth night in a row that I've slept with the windows open because it's not cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of refreshing almost
yes.
to get that air in. Yeah, and I think you're right. We're going to see another night of that tonight as temperatures remain pretty warm. February starting on a warm note. January, now that we have the full month under our belt, had its ups and downs. You know, first of all, let's take Maple Creek, for example. That's a place where you could spend the night with the windows open a couple nights ago, 21 degrees, wearing shorts there basically. But remember that Maple Creek, you know, you had a real cold snap a little earlier in the month. And normally in January, you have about 2.5 days where you get below -30 at night. But you actually had 7 days this January. Pretty hard to believe that real temperature swing. Regina, Saskatoon, you remember that we had no nights below -20 in either November or December. In January, we had 11 of them. And in addition to that, 5 days where we actually didn't get above -20 during the day. Flip side of that, though, you go up to Buffalo Narrows, and usually in January you see about 3 days where you get above the freezing mark, and you had 6. You doubled that. All of those coming just within the last few days of January. That warm air still in place through much of the province. We have a bit of a stationary boundary though here. Some cooler air on the eastern side of it means that places like Yorkton and Hudson Bay, some 15 to 20 degrees cooler than southwestern Saskatchewan earlier this afternoon. The melting snow adding moisture to the atmosphere, and that is creating fog, dense fog throughout northern Saskatchewan, where we could see near zero visibility through many communities in the north, not only overnight tonight, but well into the day tomorrow as well, and then another repeat scenario likely as we head into tomorrow night too. Still sunny though through much of the province tomorrow, no real activity to speak of. Things changing a bit though for the weekend. A bit of a system bringing some mixed precipitation to far northwestern Saskatchewan. And then as we get into early Sunday morning, this low pressure system from the States starts to move up. Right now, looking like mostly snowfall, but maybe snow mixed with rain in west central and southwestern Saskatchewan. For Regina and the southeast, well, the southeast may be getting away without any moisture here, but a little bit of rain between Regina and Saskatoon. Better idea of accumulation amounts likely tomorrow with that system. Winds picking up a little bit still tomorrow in Regina and the southeast. Bit of a break on Saturday before they start to pick up with that system on Sunday. So until then, still feeling like spring in Regina next couple of days. And then that system either again rain or snow Sunday, mostly a snowfall I think for Monday, light snow at that point as that system starts to move away. And then that leaves us cloudy and a little bit cooler for the rest of the week. Saskatoon, again, nice conditions these next couple of days, may not even get below freezing on Friday night into Saturday. I think that will be falling mostly as snow for you on Sunday into Monday. And Tuesday through Thursday, some cloud cover. So we talk about the drought and the wildfire situation, Sam. Could be a little relief on the way.
Well, we need the moisture, but like, could we pick a kind of precipitation and not make the roads terrible?
Yeah, usually February 1st, it's all snow.
Well, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Stay with us. We've got more news after the break. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has formally unveiled sweeping and controversial gender policies for children, youth and adults. Joe Horwood has the details.
Today I wish to address a very sensitive issue involving our children and gender identity.
From surgeries to sports, even the name a teenager chooses to go by. The United Conservative government is transforming gender policies in Alberta.
Prematurely encouraging or enabling children to alter their very biology or natural growth, no matter how well-intentioned and sincere, poses a risk to that child's future that I, as Premier, am not comfortable with permitting in our province.
The measures will ban provincially funded gender-affirming surgeries for Albertans 17 and under. Teens between 16 and 17 will only be allowed access to gender-affirming care with the approval of a parent, physician, and psychologist. Those ages won't need permission to use a different name or pronouns, but schools do have to inform parents, and kids 15 and under will need to ask their parents to sign off.
In rare circumstances, when transgender children experience an abusive parent, there are, of course, child protection laws that will be enforced.
Today, Smith promised trans Albertans,
I support you in becoming the person that you want to be or who you already are. And as Premier of this province, I will ensure your rights are always protected.
But some advocates have little confidence in that promise. Late Wednesday, the Skipping Stone Foundation and Egal Canada announced their intention to challenge the new rules in court to keep their communities safe.
This is an extremely cruel law that will harm immensely trans kids across the province.
Ashley says a constitutional challenge could depend on how the province proceeds with legislation.
If they do not use the notwithstanding clause, then what we'll primarily be looking at is Section 7, which is the right to life, liberty, and security of the person under the Canadian Charter. We also have Section 15, right to equality. And in Saskatchewan, we're also even exploring Section 12, right to be free from cruel and unusual treatment or punishment.
When asked if legislating these changes could infringe on charter rights or the Canada Health Act, Smith said that's for the lawyers to debate. Joe Horwood, CBC News, Calgary.
Ethan's back with one last look at your weather. Are we going cycling tonight?
Well, yeah, anything you want, really. Windows open, sure, why not? 2 degrees in Regina at midnight. Maybe crank up the AC, why don't you? The wind's a little breezy. That'll provide a little AC, though, through the night. Those will start to die off a little bit before they pick up by the 8 a.m. hour. Looking for sunny skies. We're already at the freezing mark. And then again, I promise this is not a recording. Yes, this is the same thing as we had yesterday, basically. 5 degrees, sunny conditions, a little bit breezy. Saskatoon, clear skies tonight, sitting around -4 at midnight. Already over the freezing mark by 8 a.m. A little bit of cloud cover, but that's gone by noon. 5 degrees with some breezy conditions. No matter what any prognosticating rodent has to say, Sam, it is spring. Spring is here.
I forgot tomorrow's Groundhog Day. I guess we'll see what he says.
Yeah, well, we know.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we go, a well-known Saskatchewan TikTok star has landed a role on a popular new Paramount show called The Curse. We checked in to find out how it happened and what's next. Peter Mills has more.
You've probably seen Brett Moussois on TikTok.
Listen, our skinwalker's real.
How about now? Let me wave at him and see if he notices.
Look over there, Timothy. It's a native. He's blessing the land.
Brett is from Makwa-Sagagan First Nation in Saskatchewan. He first blew up on TikTok with comedy skits and content about life as an Indigenous person.
There was already an Indigenous community on there that was very supportive of what I was doing. And then just from there, it just took off like a fire.
Brett recently landed his first acting gig, and it just so happened to be with Oscar-winning actress Emma Stone on the critically acclaimed show The Curse. And he was able to mold the part into his own vision.
The body, which has it.
That was so beautiful. Can I give you a hug?
Sure.
Okay.
The director, actually Nathan Fielder was he was already watching my stuff and everything, and that was so cool. What they wanted was essentially everything that I already did, right? So they wanted this stoic guy making fun of the idea that non-Indigenous people think that we're only in the 1800s and everything, right? So they just wanted that, and I was like, okay, I can do that because I'm already doing that anyways, right? I got the opportunity to really make a dialogue for myself, for my own character and everything, which was so cool. It's still surreal, right? Because this is my first time ever acting on screen, and I actually got writing credits and creator credits on the show, right? So it was so cool that they gave me that opportunity to really spread my Indigenous wings.
Brett has nearly 1 million followers on TikTok, and his bio says he's indigenously Indigenous.
I like oversaturating the idea of we're so stoic and majestic, and this is how we all talk, right? And so indigenously Indigenous just kind of plays off of that, like we're just so 100% sacred with the earth and everything, right? So
Brett wants to continue acting, not just for himself though. He wants to show Indigenous people what's possible and to increase representation in mainstream media.
I always thought, oh man, I would love to get into acting, but I never thought there would ever be a day where that day would ever come. An opportunity comes just from being yourself, just from putting yourself out there.
I love it. That is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel, or of course download the CBC News app. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.